home life. It's H+L Podcast.
All right,
Oh, we're actually doing this.
we're on.
Oh,
We're
right.
good. We're fine. Yeah, we've been organised lately, haven't we?
Well, I think it was just more of the fact that I didn't realise that the music's already been.
Music's already been, and there'll be a gap, and Dee will fix that up. But yeah, I had to get in and sit down and everything like that. But I think
We've got remote control.
We've got remote controls. We're upstairs because Tom's doing a shoot downstairs for physics, or math specialist, one of the two. But we figure we better not interrupt him. So that's it.
We're done. Okay, bye.
Cool. See ya. Yeah. Look, I think it's we've come to the end of sort of the busiest period, I think, and we're now in the quietest period of the year. In terms of real estate, and I think it's probably a good time to go on break and plan for the next 12 months of content and like next 12 months of episodes and that. But I thought before we did that, we should probably recap, some of the biggest topics of financial year 2024 that ended June 30.
Yeah, there has been some big things, and even with the check my house price posts, the ads that we run, because I do check that, there has been a lot of again, it's happening, and I know this is one of the things that you're going to jump up on your soapbox about. The amount of people that are actually talking about the bubble bursting, and it's going to burst soon. And, and then there's the other concerns where it's, the older generation going, it's ridiculous, the house prices, how is it going to be easier for, the younger generation to actually step into the market? And then there's the whole, government not taking they're doing a whole heap of grants, but they're not necessarily making more supply.
Yeah.
Making it easier for supply, making things more available for construction in order to have construction happen for people to have houses.
And this has been a huge topic. Like, it's been a common topic throughout multiple episodes of the last, I think this is episode 59. And there's been a lot of comments. There's been a lot of angst and anger, and understandably so, in regards to the bubble's going to burst and who's to blame for it. Who's to blame for the current state of the market and the housing prices and so forth. I think, we've said it before and we'll say it again because obviously we're recapping and we're not going to be serious all that. We've got some cool stuff to talk about, some fun stuff to talk about too. But this is, let's start off the app with a big bang, and probably the most pressing concern and most commonly commented on thing. The bubble's not going to burst until such time as there is an oversupply in the market, right? Until such time as there are more houses than people to live in them, the bubble cannot burst just by the sheer laws of supply and demand. We don't have enough.
It goes against basic economics.
It does, and we don't have enough housing supply in the areas people want to live. Like, there might be little mini drop backs in different, like in rural areas and things where people move back to cities and population flux. But keep in mind too, like, I think we had 576,000 people immigrate to Australia last year. Like, our immigration is at almost record highs, if not record highs. And we need, on average, it's 2.4 people per household. So immigration alone increased the demand for houses by about 200,000 houses last year, let alone the natural increase from our own internal population and needs. Yeah,
but the other thing too is that to blame and this is one thing, I'm not saying that you're saying this, but there has been, again, comments made on different ads and posts that we do with Check My, where people are going, it's immigration. Immigration is making it, immigration's
contributing, but that's a surface level kind of issue.
At the same time, our population is growing daily. People are still having babies.
Look, I think, but the facts of the matter are, it wouldn't be as bad if immigration was lower, right? The crisis wouldn't be as bad if we had less immigration. But by the same token, we have an aging workforce. We don't have enough labour supply to build all the houses we need and to fill other roles and things like that. We need immigration as a country and an economy. Yeah. So would be patching up one area and be collapsing in another. But
there was already an issue before
there was already an issue beforehand
to here. So it's not you can't turn around and go, oh, it's because of immigration. It's a contributing factor. But when you look at the grand scheme of things, there's so many other factors that have a bigger role to play as opposed to immigration.
Look, I disagree with bigger role to play. I think that...
Well, I mean, stamp duty.
Yeah, but stamp duty has a big role to play. Immigration has a big role to play. To say one's bigger than the other requires us to get into a level of economics that neither of us have studied to that level. The cold, hard situation is that 570 plus thousand people immigrating to Australia require 200,000 houses. I think we built 170,000, 180,000
yeah, we're not building
last
enough
year.
to even cover the people that we've got here, let alone anyone else.
Exactly, right? And there's been a lot of noise about it. The current government is trying to address that in different ways and build more housing and so forth, which is great, but we need more. Like this has been a problem that has been coming along for 30 plus years, and no one's sort of really truly addressed it until now. They've addressed the demand problem without addressing
it now. They've just made
they're attempting to now. But they're also putting money into builds and into building. But interestingly, as I dive down this rabbit hole, I can't say categorically. I don't have any sources telling me this, but just getting a general feel, it kind of almost feels like property developers are also not building at the rate they could. Like there's a whole lot of approvals that have happened, and have been reported in the media, and the property developers haven't even laid a slab there yet.
Yeah,
like we've got the demand for it, but so it almost
we did touch on that in episode
one
50,
of them, something like that,
or 55, somewhere around there.
But it kind of like if you look in the media and that sort of thing, there's this all this noise and quiet quitting is the new term. It almost kind of looks like property developers are quiet quitting for whatever reason, who knows? But they're definitely not building at the speed they could and that they're capable of. Why? I couldn't tell you. I'm not inside their boardrooms. I don't know. But ultimately, the bubble's not going to burst until there is more property than what we need, right? And until supply is greater than demand.
Australia's ever really been in that position, has it?
No, and I mean, this is one of the reasons interest rates are used.
Lifetime.
Well, this is one of the reasons interest rates are used as a lever. Like when the GFC hit, for example, people went, "Oh, the bubble's burst," and it wasn't so much that the bubble was burst; it's just the ability to get money dried up.
Well, right? That was also because of the economics over in the States, which had a flow-on effect.
Subprime market, all that. But the interesting thing, and this is a really important thing to understand, it's not that the demand went away; it's that people couldn't get the money to satisfy the demand. So the demand stayed there, they just couldn't act on it, right? Which on the surface looks like the demand's gone away. It hasn't. It's just sitting there and getting pent up until the situation changes and they can now spend money. Interest rates dropped significantly and suddenly, boom, everything exploded, aided, of course, by COVID and things like that as well. So it wasn't a case of that the demand went away. It kind of just paused for a moment because the demand couldn't be realized, right? Because money dried up, it was harder and all that. And there were like I was a real estate, I was selling properties in that time, and it was tough and it was hard to find buyers. And there were a couple of reasons for it. Anyone who could buy a property didn't want to because there was so much uncertainty in the market. And so they were just waiting for it to change. That's not a bubble bursting, right?
No,
that's just a market going, let's just take a breath.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, the moment things stabilized, interest rates dropped, etc., it went nuts. And that is the best example that I can give you of, why it won't actually burst. We won't see a massive collapse until such time as we have significantly more supply than we do demand. Now, that could come about in all sorts of ways. We could have some sort of catastrophic event. A meteor could fall out of the sky and wipe out half the population, but not take the houses. right? Like I'm being
It's
ridiculous.
a very selective kind of
It's
thing.
a very slow. Yeah, it's like we're just going to take organic matter. We'll leave the
But isn't houses not
I suppose they are.
organic?
Yeah. I suppose
What do
we'll
you
just
think wood is?
we'll take living matter. We won't take the dead matter.
Right. Okay.
But
We won't take
look,
inanimate objects.
But and look, I'm being deliberately ridiculous in that example purely because it explains, like it shows the kind of thing that would have to happen. So even if we were to have interest rates spike to 18%, right, it would be temporary relief. It would be temporary relief. And we would have people claiming the bubble's bursting and everything like that, but we'd have a hell of a lot of homeless people, right? And so that would only be relief until such time as interest rates dropped and affordability, and then it'd go again.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we've always seen. If you look at 130 years of the Australian property market, it booms and then it drops back a little bit, but it never drops back to where it started from at the beginning of the last boom, right? And then it plateaus for a little bit and then it booms again. What's been different about this last sort of
spiked so rapidly.
10 years is it gradually increased, and it's a bang and took off, right? And it's not a bubble. An economic bubble is something that's inflated without any substance to it, right? Like the .com. People were throwing money at it. It was all hype. And there were very few actually viable companies in the .com boom, right? Here we're talking about houses and we're talking about a basic fundamental need for shelter. And there is more demand, genuine demand, than there is supply.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to see it burst. This is not a case of, and one of my favorite comments that we see quite often is, real estate agents are to blame. They're driving the prices up. No.
That or greedy investors.
Yeah, greedy investors will come to, I think, a bit later, because I think that there's some interesting stuff we've discovered. We've talked a little bit about on other eps, but with real estate agents, blaming them for driving the prices up, yes, the real estate agent's job is to get the best possible result for their seller. But the real estate agent can't get any more money out of the market than what the market's willing to pay.
Yeah.
Right? So,
well, that's what they always say. Your house is only as worth as your house is worth only what someone's willing to pay.
Yes.
So it's not like a real estate agent can really stand there, and if the market's saying the house is only worth $550 and they get $555,
someone was willing to pay that.
Someone was
right?
willing to pay that extra $5,000. It wasn't the real estate agent going, now you're not going to leave here until you give me that extra $5,000.
Gun to your head, you give me $5,000. You know, it doesn't happen like that. And so what's actually happening? And my position in an online offer management platform and in the market means I see this actually play out in very real terms. The market is competing more heavily for properties than it has, at least in my memory, and my 15 years in the industry. And because of that competition is driving up prices. Now, what's the source of that competition? Well, it's buyers. Okay, cool. So we got multiple buyers going for one property.
But it's also because
which means that demand is significantly greater than supply, so therefore demand competes in order to acquire the supply that is available, which drives the price
up. Like Antonia had actually touched on in our interview with her, was that the vacancy rates are actually starting to get
record lows.
Yeah. Record lows.
They're scary lows. They're well below.
Yeah, which means
where they're
that
safe.
There's also that crunch time on the rental market coinciding with the the purchasing of houses. So it's like it's both markets at the same time that are experiencing
and that's
pretty much
really
the same
unusual.
thing.
That's really unusual, right?
Like normally it's
in history, rents get driven up until they reach a point where it makes sense for investors to come back into the market. So investors come back into the market, which drives housing prices up, and they and rents sort of drop back a little bit because there becomes a bit of an oversupply, and then it swaps and it sort of seesaws, right?
Yeah.
And for the first time
it's like this.
They're both going because there's not enough houses. But all right, we'll jump ahead. We'll talk greedy investors too because it ties in. Like this is the reason rents are being driven up.
Yeah.
right? Like obviously there's cost of mortgage and stuff like that.
So we did talk about this. Sorry, I just need to link it in just so that if people are wanting to go and have a look. So the bubble bursting, we spoke about it in EP 1, 11 and 33.
Yep.
Real estate agents driving up prices.
We spoke a few times on that one.
There was EPs 2, 6, 10 and 11. Then Antonia, is it Mer or Ma?
Mercarella. Antonio Mercarella,
Sorry,
CEO of the
Antonia,
REIQ.
I'm really sorry about that. That was episode 55. So if you're wanting to actually listen to what the CEO of the REIQ was talking about.
That was an excellent
a really
episode. That was
interesting ep.
Yeah, to see someone who's like Antonia is so heavily across policy as well as everything that's happening on the ground. I really liked, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll come back to it in our topic recap. But some of her ideas for how to directly approach and create immediate sort of solutions in the short term, I think were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, and those episodes that I've just spoken about, like it pretty much with the greedy investors, that was EP 42. Then there's been quite a few EPs where we've spoken about this, touched on it, even talking to Antonia about things. She also dived deeper than what we knew. Actually gave facts and figures about things as to what she is seeing in the market and the feedback that she's getting, not just on the public's opinion.
Yeah, not just the headline stuff, but the actual data behind it.
Yeah, the data behind it. And because she also does work closely with the government as well with things, and being an advocate for not just real estate agents, but also the general public as well, going, yes, that's good, or no, it's not, or what are you thinking? She does take into consideration the homelessness and what they're doing in that regards as well, in order to make sure that everyone has the same opportunities
for housing, for shelter,
for housing.
And I think there's on this, coming back to greedy investors and driving rents up. The Australian Property Investment Professionals Association report. PIPA report came out, and there's another one due at the end of August, beginning of September, which I'm really excited to get my hands on. But in last year's report, it reported something to the effect of 92% of investors had stated that the cost of keeping investment property had increased.
Yeah.
But they were also very conscious of not unnecessarily raising rents for the most part as well, purely because they understood their role in making sure that shelter was provided, and but not only that too, they understand the pressures, because the pressures they're under are similar to the pressures that a tenant's under, albeit the source is coming from a different place. And so I found that really, really interesting, but we've got a massive, massive problem, and that is that a huge percentage of investors actually offloaded one or more investment properties in that 12 months up to that report. And 73.6% of those properties that were offloaded by investors went to owner-occupiers. Now, that's in some terms, that's good, right? Owner-occupiers, people are buying houses and so forth. That's great.
The rental role.
But it's taking out of the rental market. So approximately 250,000 properties got removed out of the rental market in that 12-month window. And we're expecting this next report is going to be significantly worse than that.
Yeah. So let's look at that number. That's
250,000 properties. Now, the total rental market in terms of properties under management in this country through property managers is about 2.5 million. So 10% of the properties under management. Now, there's about 3.1 million total rental properties in this country. But 2.5 million roughly are under management with professional organisations, so we can track those figures. 10% of the properties under management disappeared from the rental market. which is massive. So we have increasing population through immigration that we're not able to keep up with the supply required to house the people coming into this country, to house the people we have here. And at the same time, we have a rental crisis that's already exacerbated by the lack of supply of properties. And we just lost 10% in a 12-month window. We lost 10% of properties out of that market as well.
So hold on. To tie it back into what we had been saying previously, how many houses per year is needing to actually be built to house people currently? Isn't it 200 and...
That's just for the immigration side.
Yeah.
So
okay.
we need about 400,000 properties per year, roughly. Rough 350 to 400,000 properties to stay stable.
Yeah, okay. So what was it? 450 to...
350 to 400.
Okay, so let's say 400, just to be safe.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got some in our back pocket for situations like this. So let's say 400. So the amount, that's so that people have somewhere to purchase, because we need investors to purchase.
And this is initial.
In order to go into the rental market. That's in a utopian Australian housing.
Everything's stable.
Yep.
We've got enough. Yep.
Currently, how many is being built per year?
The last numbers I saw were somewhere between 170 and 180,000 new properties being built. And that's a mix between investors and owner-occupiers.
Yeah, okay. So let's say it was a fair 50-50 down the line.
It'd be more likely to be 25-75, 25% investors and 75. Like,
Okay,
that's historical, rough historical.
Okay, so how much is that investors? Is that...
Nowhere near enough.
What, let's say 30,000?
You'd call it 50,000. So there's probably 50,000 properties being built in that 12-month window that was by investors. Keep in mind, this is estimates. We don't actually have figures on this.
No, this is purely estimates.
Purely estimates. So you're talking 50,000 properties are being put back in, but 250,000 properties are being removed out of the rental market.
Yeah. So when you look at that, like we're not even getting that 50,000 in order, and you've got that 250 being removed and being sold to owner-occupiers, which are leaving, realistically, that's 200,000 properties that have been completely removed. So then you look at it and you go, hold on, we're not even replacing...
And that's in the rental market. We're not replacing in the rental market, which is why the rental crisis...
No, I'm saying, the investors, with the current market as is...
Yep.
We're not even having anyone
replacing the properties that are being lost. No, we're not.
Into that. And we don't even have the capabilities at the moment. We were talking utopian world.
Yeah. And you know what the number one reason why investors are selling up and getting out is?
It's because, isn't it like negative gearing and
Nope.
it's just...
Political interference.
Yeah. Surprise.
Yeah. The fact that the government policy has been run shot from the hip.
It's a popularity game.
Yeah, and it's not like investors are being blamed as the greedy investors and things like that. Now, and there'll be people listening to this going, yeah, screw them, they deserve it, whatever. Keep in mind the way this country's set up in terms of property is if we don't have investors, the government's not building properties, right? Developers need people to buy off the plan in order to get finance to be able to build a development.
Yeah, because...
Right? They've got to pre-sell it. And owner-occupiers rarely buy off the plan because of the risks associated, the costs associated. Investors buy off the plan because they can mitigate those costs, right? And
housing commission, not all housing commission homes are built by the government.
No, absolutely.
A lot of them are, they've gone, we're needing to buy a house, so we'll go and buy the house. But there's already been someone who had, like an investor or a home owner who wanted to build.
Who built it and
actually built
it. And they get sold.
And then the government comes in and goes, we're needing somewhere for people to live, so we'll buy this.
We'll buy that one.
So they actually haven't, they're not the ones that are going, we're taking on this complete responsibility ourselves. No. We're coming in after
the government.
fact.
They don't build a lot of properties. They definitely don't build as many as they could, and in my opinion, should. So that's the situation that we have now. This government is talking more about building more social housing and so forth, which is good. But that leaves a whole lot of people who it's kind of that meme, right? The bank said I can't afford $2,200 a month or $3,000 a month in mortgage repayment, so I'll keep paying $5,000 a month in rent, right?
Yeah.
Like it's and so there's a whole lot of people that are fitting in that zone that they need investors and they need more properties being built into the market.
Hasn't there been
that
a
is for the
change
open
to
market.
finance though?
I couldn't answer you on that one.
I thought I had heard. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there's someone out there that's in finance that can correct this. I thought what they were doing, they were changing things so that they would start to take into consideration the rent that you are paying, because obviously you can show that
you've got the capability.
You do have the capability of paying that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know that we'd need to speak to a broker about that one. I haven't read that at this point, but then again, I haven't been looking at finance lately. So, but yeah, so look, at the end of the day, this anti-investor narrative is actually worsening the rental crisis. And it's not doing anything to help the overall housing crisis, because it's the investors that build. So if we were to be more supportive of investors, we'd have more properties coming into the market. And yes, there'd be a delay. It wouldn't be an immediate solution for tomorrow. It wouldn't be that suddenly we've got investors are building thousands and thousands of houses that are available tomorrow.
If they did.
But in 5 or 10 years' time, there's a huge amount of what was investment stock coming onto the market for owner occupiers, because the depreciation on it and everything like that has now run out, and it's time to offload and to build another one as per the cycle. But because of political interference, and that's the main reason cited for why investors are getting out of the market, is it's not the cost of holding the property. It's not the cost of living. Like, yes, they all acknowledge. I said 92% of them acknowledge that their costs have increased, and it has made it a little more difficult. But that's not the primary reason they're getting out of the market. The primary reason they're getting out of the market is their jack of the poor political policy, shooting from the hip, and policy by popularity.
Oh, it is frustrating given the fact that, the amount of
and the
stuff that they've put
but they look at
forward,
it too, and they just go,
what the hell are you
I can put my money elsewhere, and it doesn't cause me the stress, right? Yeah. So, and then you get into the media, and the media is calling them greedy and targeting them and stirring up all this anti-sentiment. So I get it. I see why they're getting out. I think that, all it's doing is worsening the situation. And I think that all parts of the industry, all stakeholders actually need to come together, work together as one, and have mutual respect for each other.
Yeah.
Because if we all respect each other's position, we work towards a solution that, we all compromise on, but we also all win on in some way. Like, we win more than we lose. Whereas the situation we have right now, where all the factions are playing off against each other, we just swing from one extreme to the other depending on who's in government. And that is now playing out with a core fundamental building block of our real estate industry abandoning the market because they just don't want to deal with the shit anymore. And we need them to solve the fundamental issue in our housing crisis, regardless of whether it's houses or rental. We need more supply, and we need these guys to be willing to build it, but we're demonizing them, and so they're like, screw it, I'm out.
Yeah.
Which I can't blame them for.
Yeah, no, you can't. So there's something else that there will be a couple of topics where we will be flicking back to Antonia, because we had...
Oh, she was awesome.
Very much touched on it. So one thing that Antonia had said in episode 55 was Australia isn't, and this isn't just Queensland, this is Australia as a whole, we haven't embraced, and I think it's because we have such a huge country for such a small population.
Yeah, we've got a lot of land to spare.
So we haven't utilised and it is a cultural thing, we haven't utilised the apartment living or because, we're always brought up that,
the backyard, the hills hoist.
The backyard. Like, it's funny, you listen to American, people who live in New York and stuff, and they're like, wouldn't it just be a dream that, that you have a kid and, the white picket fence? Well, here in Australia, we take that for...
That was our default for a long time, yeah.
We're just like, what are you talking about, a white picket fence? Like,
Yeah.
But we actually want to move closer to the city as opposed to moving out of the city
I
order to
think
raise like to
her
make it
her
easier.
solution for that, for
We need
like
to
addressing the
different
housing
ways
issue.
of actually housing.
She talked a lot about the sort of inner suburban density in
Yeah.
terms of the suburbs closest to the CBD and the city and that have high demand. There's a lot of older houses on them. They're bigger blocks because, 50, 60, 70 years ago, they were quite a ways out from the city, right?
Yes.
At that time. And, of course, perceptions have changed and desires have changed. But you've got people that, could quite literally put medium density dwellings on their blocks and do JVs with builders where they end up with the top floor and they build like, a 6-story apartment building and so suddenly one dwelling becomes 12 and creates that situation which could go a long way to alleviating the pressure on the current supply and sort of allow people to live where they want to live. And look, there's a little bit of sacrifice there. You're not getting your backyard and things like that, but you're also not having to pay $3 million for a property, that's within 10 minutes of the CBD.
Yeah.
And I thought, but
investors
in
do
terms,
have the capability of going, right, we're going, instead of just putting housing in, there is the capability, and a lot of them do it, where there's a negotiation that actually happens with the government where they go, you need to have a certain amount of conservation area, or you need to have a certain amount of parking.
That doesn't apply to here. What this is here. This is not necessarily investors. This is property owners who have the large square of land, who are on a 600 or 800 square block in those areas. They can do a JV with the developer and have the developer build a 6-story apartment building, and the developer buys the land off them, or they end up getting the top floor apartment or whatever in the deal, however that works out. It needs the support of government because council needs to green light that. They need to allow the rezoning. In some cases, it's already been rezoned. But that would be it'd put a dent like short term, because all of the solutions to our housing crisis are long term. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and it's magically fixed. Right? This is going to be 5 years before we start to see any genuine kind of improvement and easing.
During that 5 years, there's been pile-on.
Exactly, right? and then it's going to be 10 years before we start to even feel like we might be able to take a breath, and 15 to 20 years before we go, hey, remember when we had that housing crisis? So it's not a short-term solution.
No.
But what I really liked about Antonio's suggestion was, if we prioritize that in those suburbs and we made that attractive and appealing, if we removed red tape at the council and state government level to allow the rezoning or to allow this sort of stuff to happen, we could see significant improvement in that situation in that short-term 5-year window.
Yeah, well, she did, like, because in one app, I can't remember which one it was, so sorry for this, but we did talk about a council down, I think it was near Ballarat.
No, I think it was out west of Geelong from memory.
And there was a council there that it was literally like a field of dreams. If we build it, they will come.
Yeah, so they develop their own land because no one else will develop it.
Yeah, the construction was like, well, who's going to buy out there? Like, we're not going to invest in it, So the council turned around and went, right, well, we'll do it. So they purchased the land, they built on the land, and then had all of these people come to a regional town who the population wasn't growing. If anything, it was going backwards. But because they'd gone and built these houses, people were now coming and going, well, yeah, we normally travel like an hour.
Yeah.
And there's a train.
They could sit on the train. It was like an hour and a half, hour and 50 or something like that.
And they're like, well, that's what we travel anyway. So, might
we
as
can
well just do it.
Yeah.
And we've also got the country living, and we've got the space, and we've got all of this. But it all came down to the fact that the council was going, we have an issue, not just for council, but we have an issue for our population of our town. If we don't have population, our town is going to cease
die.
to exist.
Yeah.
We need to do something about it.
And let's be honest, like, you know, there would have been a fair bit of stamp duty from that ended up in the state government coffers and council coffers and things like that.
But at the same time, because it ended up in their coffers, then it also meant that they could go and do the second development.
And reinvest in the community.
And, you know, the community itself turned around and just went, well, we are also helping. We're creating that opportunity for people to come and experience what we are also, you know, paying for. But it means that not just construction, the you know, different things that it go, like stamp duty for councils, it does go into, like road maintenance and all the rest of it that you pay through rates. So you look at it and you just go, why isn't that being taken on by more councils?
Yeah, look, and
Not just government,
I
but
think
councils.
I think it's red tape. We talked about it in a number of episodes as well. Like, in some cases, I think there was a study done by H+L who found that somewhere in the vicinity of 36-37% of the cost of a new house and land package in Brisbane was made up of taxes, stamp duty, and red tape, bureaucratic red tape. So, you know, I think that's it right there. There's so much
But the council had even
inefficiency.
gone into looking at the ways that they could they understand, like, yes.
They understand. But it also
also
takes an innovative mindset, and innovation requires risk. And, you know, councils, state governments, all that. I'm yet to meet a politician who is willing to risk their seat on something that could blow up in their face.
But you know what? I just look at it and go, it's because they're too worried about not being the popular kid at the table.
Well, that's because their job relies on them getting the votes next election.
I understand it, but you know what? If you step out of that circle and go, I'm doing this for the people because the people are fed up with no one actually doing anything, so I'm going to do it, you get into office because the people vote for you.
I would love it to be that way, but you need money for election campaigns and stuff, right?
This is also the utopian world that, you know, ends up having enough housing.
All right. So, look, we've talked a lot about governmental. We've talked about the housing crisis. We've tied a lot of the EPs in there and that sort of thing. But, you know, I think one of the episodes over the last 12 months that kind of really opened my eyes a bit was the EP on property buying red flags. When we went and looked in, so we'll jump away from government because you and I could go on for the next 3 hours on that. Like, it's something we're passionate about.
So
but
I forget what.
Remember, we looked at
the one that we did with Narelle.
No, the property buying red flags is where we found and there was a whole discussion on Reddit, and, you know, cracks through the wall and water damage and
Yeah.
Like, and of course, you know, you and I have had experience with water damage in property before, and
to say it politely.
Yeah, water damage. I think water damage, like, that just kills it. Water damage is, I'm out.
The thing with water is that there's no control.
Yeah.
Water will go where water wants to, and there's no, you know, even putting pipes in order to help it negotiate its way through your household, it still doesn't matter. If that pipe breaks, that water's gone.
Yeah.
It's going to go wherever the hell it wants to.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then even if you fix the problem and you clean up the water, it may still be damp, which leads to everybody's favourite thing, mould. Good old mould.
And
potential structural integrity issues and
bleach.
Yeah. You love bleach.
That only changes the colour of it. It doesn't actually do anything. But sure, tell me about how it kills the spores and it doesn't actually, like, you know, you have to spray it in another couple of weeks because, oh, look, it's
the spores are back. Yeah, they've got their colour back.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I thought it was interesting going down that rabbit hole because it's been a while since you and I bought a house. You've sold one recently in the last few years. But yeah, just a good reminder, I think, going through and what to look for. And then, of course, your little sister bought one down in Taz, so it was quite timely to go and look at all that.
Very, very proud of Poobit.
Yeah, she's done well.
She's gone and bought her own home down in Launceston. 3-bedroom, I think it is.
Something like that. With a
in
studio or something outside. Yeah.
in South Launceston. So shout out to Paige for that one. Done it by herself. Very proud of her.
She's done well.
There was, and this is one thing I do know at the moment she is going through a bit of a hiccup where she was under the impression that plumbing had been inspected.
Yeah, right.
By the bank, only to find out that it's not on the building.
BMP.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, they don't do pest inspection down there.
I suppose, yeah, they don't have to worry so much about termites in the cold, do they? No.
So
Speaking of cold, did you get the video from her the other day where all her pipes are frozen? She turned the tap on and nothing happened? It was so cold down in Tassie.
No,
yeah.
But she's in for a hoot and a half because there's supposed to be a
polar blast.
Polar blast.
Polar blast this week, so that'll be fun.
But yes, all of those types of things where I said to her, so what are you talking, like when it comes to the plumbing, what do you like, because she does have an outhouse, the good old outhouse, and she's like, I have to use the internal toilet sparingly. So
she's using the outhouse in, what was it, -4 or something the other morning?
Yes.
Yeah.
She said the amount of internal debate that she has as to
how badly she needs to go.
How busting she actually is. So could you imagine it's a 3-bedroom house. Could you imagine what it would be like if every single one of those rooms had a person living in it?
God, that'd be terrible at the moment. That'd be a nightmare.
Especially with, so at the moment, she's going through the whole process of going, hey guys, I haven't even been in this house for a month.
And we've got this problem.
This issue is here and it wasn't disclosed to me at the time of purchase. So did you guys check it? Because according to this building inspection...
You did?
No, you didn't.
Oh, really? So it's not on the building inspection?
It's not on there.
Should it be?
Yeah, it should.
Ooh, that's going to be interesting.
How are you supposed to go, yes, the plumbing works...
Yeah, when it's not inspected. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
All right.
So
well, she's going to need a gin or two to to deal with that one and cope with the stress levels.
I think she needs more than a gin.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But well, that brings us to what was your favourite gin of the last 12 months? Because we tried a few. We tried a few on the podcast. We tried a few, just experimenting.
Look. And then I had my 40th birthday
at
a
my gin
distillery.
Yeah.
So, hi, Redlands Coast. Look, I'm not going to lie. Their pink gin is still my favourite.
Redlands Coast.
Yeah.
They're what is it? They're wildberry and elderberry or something. Elderflower. Wildberry and elderflower, I think it is.
Yeah, but it's their pink gin.
It's their pink gin. Yeah, fair enough.
It's still going
that
to
one's
be
pretty
the
good.
case.
Yeah.
Although, it wasn't the Mediterranean one. What was the one that you gave me the other night as the taste tester?
So we
from Simple Gin.
No, I think it was Pure, but it's like
no, the brand I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I thought that name was Simple.
I think it was Pure Spirits or something like that. Pure Spirit Distillery, something to that effect. It's another Aussie one, but
let me Google this.
But they've got to change their name. That's why, because of other issues. Spirit Hill, maybe something like that. But that one was pretty good. I think their dry gin, their traditional dry, was really really good. Hellfire Bluff and Adams Distillery are still my favourite slow gins.
Yeah, the slow from Adams, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, the barrel aged slow, still my favourite.
But the vodka from Hellfire.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
The vodka.
Yeah.
I can't even find them.
No, the bottle's over on the bench, but...
And it's all the way over there,
we're
there. All the way over here.
We'll take a photo of it and get Dee to upload it over this part. But yeah, no, that I think that was a really good dry gin. I think that was probably my favourite dry gin. Because when we were doing the taste testing, we were... we'd have half a nip and we'd sip over ice first and then we'd add a mixer and it was just smooth over ice and quite tasty.
I found it to be a lot fruitier, I would say. Sweeter
Yeah, it was sweeter than a traditional dry.
and creamier.
Yeah.
Still had a bit of a kick to the chest without being like you've
Over
just
the top.
been winded.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was good. I enjoyed that one.
So what were your favourites?
Yeah, look, I mean, the
where I
Adam's
was up
slow. I think in that one, in terms of a dry, although the Hendrix Amazonia is pretty amazing.
Oh, that's pretty up there too.
When you have that with the Fever Tree Elderflower Tonic, that's beautiful. Like if you get that mix right, it is very hard to compete with.
Say that word again.
If you get that mix
No.
right.
Beautiful.
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 Don't understand what's happening here.
No, it was just the
Beautiful.
way that, hey?
Beautiful.
It doesn't sound like you're saying it properly.
Oh, that's how I say it.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was like, beautiful.
Right. Cool.
Do you mean beautiful?
Yeah.
Like, beautiful.
Let's move on. Let's move on to something beautiful.
Do you say pool or pool?
Oh God, here we go. You know, I grew up in New Zealand, so I alternate
I
between
didn't,
the
and
Kiwi
I've got two
pronunciation and the
sisters.
Australian pronunciation.
I've got two sisters who say pool.
I
And
say pool.
Pool.
I say pool.
And then I have another
sometimes
sister
I'll say
that-
plants, and sometimes I'll say plants.
Do you say bag or bag?
What the? What the hell?
Paige says bag.
No, it's bag.
Yeah, no, it's definitely bag.
I mean, I've heard Paige say bag. Well, I can't even do it.
Bag.
But yeah, I've heard her say that, but I thought she was just being funny and...
No, she legitimately says it as bag.
Okay. All right. Well, that's fine. We understand what she means. That's all that matters. Language is for communication. As long as everyone understands what you're talking about, it's fine.
Well, no wonder people come to Australia and it's just like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, exactly.
You've got some people saying bag and you've got another lot of people saying bag. And then when we would say, I remember being down working with her down on the Gold Coast and she would say cabinet. And we're like, do you mean cabinet? And she's like, yeah, in the cabinet.
She was saying it phonetically there.
Like, no, so
the spelling,
we're like,
correct spelling.
We were like, what? Do you mean like, why are we going political? And she's like, what? What are you talking about? And we're like, well, what are you talking
You
about?
know they're
She's
spelled the
like,
same, right?
Yeah. And she's like, well, why? I'm not being political. What are you talking about political? And we're
Sounds like you were
well,
just tormenting your little
cabinet-
sister here.
Cabinet is like the cabinet of, the
This
parliament.
this sounds like you were just tormenting your little
Cabinet.
sister.
Do you mean the cabinet? It's in the cabinet. And she's like, yeah, the cabinet. Love you, Pooh Ed.
Oh, jeez.
So, well, I do notice that you do say plants.
I do on occasion. I'll say plants and sometimes I'll say plants.
Do you say dance or dance?
I alternate.
Do you say duvet or do you say doona?
I say doona. Duvet sounds wankerish.
Not duvet.
Tiny homes were a cool episode this year. I think that's a cool alternative. There's a lot of cool, like tiny homes, container homes, and of course my personal favorite, 3D printing homes. I'm looking forward to that coming. I think that can do cool stuff.
Considering that, again, Antonia, we had spoken to her about different housing options, and she said, you know what, if Australia really embraced that different forms of living. I had noticed when, like, going through...
She wasn't as excited about
regional-
3D printing as I was.
No, well, she did. She was like, look, if it means that people can get into
Yeah.
houses quicker, then absolutely go for it. And it is something that does need to be looked
Investigated deeper.
at, considering that it still lives up to it, like especially here in Queensland, where it has to be cyclone proof. Like,
Oh, yeah,
there's
absolutely.
there's no, I'm going to build a house. If it's not cyclone proof, you don't get the tick of approval from the council.
Yeah.
So, of which 3D housing, they come with all of those guarantees. The places that I have gone and researched and had a look at, absolutely.
We went and saw some examples of 3D. So on another episode we did was the road trip.
When did we see?
No, we didn't, as in Tom and I. So when we did the road
Right.
trip
I was going to go,
at the end of last year, we did that road trip and we went through
Oh, that's right. When you went through Belconnen, was it Belconnen?
No, it's not
Down in the
Belconnen.
AC?
No, it wasn't ACT. I kind of want to say Coffs Harbour, but I don't feel it was Coffs Harbour. But anyway, in New South Wales somewhere, they had 3D printed an amenities block. And we actually went and checked that out to see what the construction was like, concrete was like.
Toilets that were in
Look,
there.
we timed it. It was part of, the road stopping and that, but we had a look, and that was quite interesting. It looked like layers of toothpaste, like cement-coloured toothpaste on top of each other, but obviously it was solid as cement. And they'd built the entire thing, and it was a fairly decent-sized structure. It was probably the size of two sort of 40-foot containers side by side. So it's not like it was tiny. I can definitely see it being used. I mean, obviously, building an amenities block is very different to building a house, like 3D printing a house, and particularly in terms of style and comfort and things like that. But I could definitely see there was some validity to its use. Yeah.
Look, if there's 3D people out there who are building houses,
I'd love to have a chat to them, pick their brains.
we would love to have a chat to you. He would probably geek out with you more than what I would just be. I would be more on the, how's it look kind of deal.
Just call me Alice. I'm going down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, he would definitely be like, tell me more.
But
I do remember contacting a friend of mine, who I grew up with, and I said to him, have you heard anything about, 3D printing a home? Since you are in concreting, like he's been doing that now for as long as I can remember. And he was like, no, I haven't really heard anything about it. Let me have a look at it. And I sent him down that rabbit hole. He was like, this is really interesting. Like, this has really piqued my, how can I get this happening? Like, I want to know
I'm infectious
more.
like that. I come across stuff and
I lost it.
I just share it and next thing I know, I've infected everybody around me.
I was in the middle of having a conversation with him, as well as, running household with kids and, getting things organised for the morning. And it was like, I would say about an hour and a half that I had left. And I knew that he was off work at that particular stage.
Yep.
Like he still was running his business, but he was off work because I think he'd done something to his shoulder or something like that. So he had the time, and it was about an hour and a half. And he's like, literally, since you've spoken to me last, I've been looking and Googling the hell out of this thing because I'm just sitting there like watching it go around and around and around. And he's like, I don't know why, but it's really
quite cathartic.
He was like, it's really therapeutic.
Yeah. It's nice and predictable. Yeah. Makes sense in a crazy world.
The other thing that I really enjoyed was we had a couple of years ago, we had gone down to Tassie to see Paige, and there was the tiny houses.
That was at AgFest. We saw them.
AgFest.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I find quite amazing, who are really embracing the different homes, and even here in Queensland when we went over to Russell Island, the amount of homes there that were using containers.
Yes. And I think it's cost-effective build aspect of it.
And tiny homes as well.
Yep.
The only thing that if you've got a larger family...
Well,
I would say, like, the container side of home building would be better if you've got a bigger family.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and it kind of segues nicely into the next topic, and that is like, in order for me to fit in a tiny home, I need to lose a lot of size.
Or that I just don't live with you.
Well, there's that too, but. I think I'd rather lose the size personally than lose you, but
depends on what day and what mood you're in when it comes to me.
That goes both ways, I reckon, at times.
It depends on how long I'm doing this for. I'm not touching you.
Yeah,
what are you talking about? I'm not touching you.
Flashbacks to being 10 years old again with two sisters. But I mean, we have lost some size though. Like, I've lost 13 kilos and kept it off, and of course we talked about. Like, I'd done this process before with the peptides and the HCG diet through Regen Med Direct.
And then he roped me into it.
And then I roped you into it. How did you find it this time? Did you have any success? you know.
I have lost a solid 11 kilos.
So you lost basically 12, 13% of your body weight.
Yes.
Probably more than that.
And I'm still losing weight.
Yeah.
I'm still losing weight. The last time, to give you an idea, the last time that I was around this weight was when we had moved in together at Redland Bay, within the first 6 months. It's his fault that I got fat.
Yeah, but you enjoyed it. You didn't have to eat all that amazing food I put in front of you.
Look, it was only because when I started living with you, I was like putting salt and pepper into everything. And you were like, why do you do that? And I'm like, it's called seasoning and it should. There was no easy way for me to tell you that your food was bland.
No, but
I didn't want to offend you. And we'd only been living together for like 6 or 7. And it wasn't, to give you an idea of how much I've changed your food experience.
You haven't changed it. You've just let me be back to my natural self.
I remember I left Parmesan cheese at your place at Logan, and you were like, what is that amazing cheese that you got? Like, the boys and I have finished it. And I'm like, you mean fresh Parmesan cheese? Because
we knew what Parmesan was, but we'd always used it at a thing. But the dry stuff. But
I'm so proud that I have changed your Parmesan game.
I'll give you that one. Like so I always liked strong flavors. Yeah. I always liked really rich flavors. I always had my entire life. But every partner I'd had always gone, it's too rich, I can't eat it, it's too, why did you make, and so I just dulled everything down so that people would eat.
So what I'm hearing here is your life had been a bit dull until I came along.
Yeah, like pretty much. But so then when you came along
what are you talking about? I'm not touching you.
when you came along and you were, you finally plucked up the courage to go, I find it a bit bland, and I need stronger flavors. I went, wait, you mean I can do this? And you were like, yeah, and I'm like, sweet. And so I just went back to how I liked to cook.
He couldn't even handle chili, like.
Now I make chili salts.
That infuriated me because I grown up on chili, and even to the point where my kids, even when they were little, when they and this is before I even knew you, I would cook curry, and it was just a given that I would give them, like cucumber and yogurt with. And naan bread as well with it to help combat. And if it was too spicy, like sometimes Mummy got a little bit heavy-handed with the chili,
that runs in the family. There's a young lad who does that a little bit with the murder sprinkles.
Look, and considering that we have always done the whole, you do it, you got to eat it because you've done it to your own food. There's no
getting out of this
unless it's to that point where if the lid falls off by accident, that's not intentional. That was
that's a different story.
But if you're standing there like this and we're going, that's too much,
and you keep going,
you're going to learn as to why it's too much.
Yep.
And because of that, he has learned. Like
he's learned.
He would say to me when he was little, "Can I please have some milk, Mummy?" And so he would sit there and he would be like, "Sip, have some."
Yep.
Oh, okay. Sip.
He's got really good tolerance now. Like his most recent debacle, like and of course I've made
actually, instead of seeing it as a challenge.
Yeah, he doesn't see it as a challenge anymore, and because
which is the reason why he's getting a little bit more heavy-handed.
It is,
but it is also addictive.
It is addictive, and so I started growing chilies, started experimenting, trying to make chili salts and things like that, and I made one that ended up being called murder sprinkles.
I sent him down a rabbit hole by accident, and
call me Alice.
This is my fault as to you being obsessed with chilies.
And that's it.
Just like it was your fault. The reason I got fat.
Everybody loved murder sprinkles, even the kids. And so about 2 months ago, he's there and he knows the rules with murder sprinkles. It's like, start small, build up over time, be gentle, don't be cocky. This is not salt.
Even I grew up on chili, and
Yep.
there's times there where I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
dude.
because
you
like it can
just-
one shake extra goes past where you're comfortable, you know, pretty quickly. And he's just sitting there going like this, and it's like, dude, that's you're gonna nuke yourself. And he's like, no, I'm good. I like it like this. So I went, all right, well, you got to eat it all. And to his credit, he did.
He did eat
He was
it.
sweating.
He was sweating.
But he loved
did
it.
have milk with him. He was looking for, and the amount of times that he's gone, I need water, and I'm like, don't do it.
Yeah,
You don't need
water's bad.
water. You need milk.
Yep.
Or bread.
Yep.
Like you need one of those things. I'm certainly not going to give you, risotto and chocolate. That would be an interesting combination.
Yeah. But no, like he did really, really well. And now, of course, he's like, my chili tolerance is even better. And so, you know, he's loving it even more. It'll be interesting to see how he goes with the new batch of murder sprinkles, because that's even hotter than the previous one. He'll be well supervised on that one.
I haven't tried it yet, so I'm.
It's a different burn, and it's a more intense burn that lasts longer. I wouldn't say, like, in terms of heat, it doesn't have more heat. Yeah. It's just that it's got the same amount of heat, but it's more intense, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And like you get like the roof of my mouth burnt taste testing this, which I haven't had before. And it definitely lights like my tongue and sides of but never the actual roof of my mouth.
The roof is on
it was
fire.
and the back of the throat, but that'll be good. But yeah, so you're down what do we say, 12, 13, 14, 15% of your body weight.
Yeah,
you dropped, which was awesome. How you've and you've done it like we're back eating the full calories we should be eating, and we're keeping weight off and continuing to drop excess weight.
Look, I have found that there is days, and I had a day like this yesterday where I was just like, I need food. Like,
yeah,
this isn't, and
but it doesn't have the effect on you. Like it does. Like the food you go after is often not the bad stuff. Like you're no longer craving stuff that's not good for you so much, but it doesn't hang on.
I came into you and said I wanted dumplings.
That's true. That's true.
What are you talking about?
I withdraw my statement.
But I have noticed that even though we do have sweet stuff within the household,
it's not getting eaten by us.
Normally it's you that's like, it's 8:30 at night.
I had a small packet, like about that big, of caramel popcorn, and I couldn't even finish it all. It was too sweet, and I just didn't want it.
Well, I found those packets bigger than the green ones that I normally get, and the green ones aren't as heavily caramelled.
Yeah.
So. Carameled. But it
so
does have, and then it's lightly sprinkled with.
So
salt.
that's we call that one a success for you.
Yes, it is a success.
I mean, it was hard because it's 6 weeks. It's 3 weeks of the heavily restricted calorie intake with the injection, and then it's 3 weeks of slowly creeping back to normal.
For that part, the hardest bit for me was the fact that 100 grams of meat for someone who is 5'11",
it's not a lot.
It's not a lot.
No, that was hard.
And yes, technically speaking, technically, as though in BMI, first of all, not a Latino 35-year-old man.
I'm glad of that fact, by the way. That's,
Well, it'd be a bit awkward to find out about that now, wouldn't it?
Look, it would. It'd bring a lot of questions about, who I thought I was.
So BMI, technically speaking, I was obese. But at the same time, I do come from larger stock. That's just my genetics.
It's about. I mean,
that.
I don't look at BMI, because if you look at BMI,
BMI is bullshit.
Yeah, like I'm a competitive amateur strongman. I even now, having lost the 13 kilos or 12 kilos I lost, like I tipped the scales at 146 kilos, but 90 kilos of that, or nearly 90 kilos of that, is fat-free muscle.
Yeah,
like there's a whole other person in me
that's
just
go,
made out of muscle.
Until the BMI can actually incorporate everyone
and
not just a particular pocket of people from the 1970s.
I'm with you on that.
When the ingredients into food was very, very different.
I think, the biggest win for me out of that second go round with the HCG, the weight loss was amazing, but it was actually the difference in my headspace and
Yeah,
how
'cause
I
you were
felt
talking about,
with
like,
the activated B vitamins. Like I've
Well-
continued them after that because I've always been vitamin B deficient, but that mixed with a little bit of ashwagandha that was in it meant that I was zoned in and focused all day like I've never been, and I
Well, you
really
had
found that
actually
amazing.
said that there was like going to be the blues, like the really deep blues. I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't have it
I
anywhere
had-
near as
I had
bad last time
a
either.
couple of days where I was frustrated because I was just like, I am so hungry.
Yeah,
But to narrow it down and go, that was exclusively from, like from not eating enough, like, or changes in hormones and stuff like that because of weight loss. I couldn't definitively say that.
yeah, and for me it was nowhere near as bad this time around.
Yeah.
Like I recognized, I went, you know what, that's just the feeling in my stomach because my body's dropping weight rapidly. It's not the anxiety or mental health feeling like, and of course, we've talked about it in the past, talked about Are You OK Day and stuff like that, how for me, hunger and anxiety, depression had kind of, over the years that I was battling PTSD and that, had kind of felt the same. And so my brain had mislabeled a lot of, so I'd be hungry, but I'd feel like I was depressed or I'd get anxious. And so sort of having done a lot of work around that over the last few years, coming back to that where there's that hunger and that feeling in your stomach you have when you are losing weight.
Yeah.
I was able to go, well, that's just that. So it didn't impact me anywhere near as much.
See, for me, I had done the Better Me a couple of years ago. It's called Better Me. And with that, it's about fasting. And I've still kept that fasting in place that was from that diet. And I think that's the reason why I have managed to keep the weight off, because I've kept that fasting habit.
Do you know what is hilarious though?
I don't know, tell me.
Well, the weight loss for both of us between the time I ordered these Check My House price hoodies and when they arrived means they're like a size and a half too big on both
I'm
of us.
fine with that. I hate.
I love the big hoodie, but
I hate, and I mean hate, despise, right? When it goes, oh, we're going to give you a women's 16, right?
yep.
And then you get it and you're like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
who have you based this off? Because this is not a size 16 women's. I can go to any other size 16 women's and go, oh, this is how big it is. I can confirm that I have gone down 2 dress sizes.
Awesome.
So that has definitely happened.
Yep.
So when I've gone and ordered new clothes, because I've needed new clothes because it's winter and like even these jeans are too big for me. Had another pair of favourite Levi's, their 150-year anniversary stock that you can no longer get. It looks like I'm wearing a pair of your jeans. Like, there is no emphasis on my body whatsoever apart from looking like I've got a really heavy nappy on.
Oh God.
The bum is hanging
Oh,
down.
dear.
It is not an attractive look, but
Yep.
I really enjoy my Levi's. So I can say that because of that fasting that was in place, that has also helped. And then because when I get to that time where I'm about to have my first meal of the day, I am
That's
not
coming up for us soon.
yeah, it is.
looking forward to it.
I'm not looking at it going, give me food because I'm awake and I've got so much stuff going on that I need to get kids going, so it needs to be easy, and I just shovel something into my face.
Yeah, it's a deliberate choice. You're more deliberate about what you eat.
I am more,
and me too, in a big way.
And then even when it gets to the 3:30 itis, I am also going, hold on, I'm not looking for the sweet stuff in order to power me through.
I went and made jerky purely to satisfy that
I'm looking more like for a green tea. I had to make a rule that as long as I have green tea, that's fine, but I can't have it past 3:30 or I don't sleep. But the other thing too is that the weight loss for me, with the medication that I am on, it's actually been because obviously the medication, it does take into effect what my weight is and everything like that.
Yep.
And so the medication that I'm on, it's actually working better.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't working before, but it's working better.
But it's more thorough. I like it. And
I like it a lot.
We've got a decent size app here. So I think, the last thing to end on and recap on is, of course, the all the barbecue and flavorful discussions that we had throughout the year, usually in the JTMs, but we did things like build amazing lamb rubs. I've actually found...
Well, we also did do the dinner party.
We did the dinner party as well. We had fun with that, and that was fun. But I found the best lamb rub for lamb roast ever, and it's called Butcher's Banquet Lamb Rub. It's black label, like metallic green, like bands top and bottom. And if you, and this is the hot tip, if you use Worcestershire sauce as your binder on the lamb, so you give it a coating of Worcestershire first, and then put
sauce.
That's the one, and then put the lamb rub over the top of that, and then smoke it, but like flame roasted, not low and slow smoke, flame roasted, 150 to 175 degrees Celsius. That produces hands down the best lamb roast
This is more
ever.
Information for you guys, because when he starts talking about this
She
stuff,
just zones out. She goes, just tell me when I can eat.
I've heard it so many times, and every single time, this is going to sound dodgy, that he's rubbing his meat in the kitchen. I just hear this lamb, this rub is so awesome.
It is.
I so love this.
Hands down, best lamb
and
rub.
And he comes in
ever.
And he's like, so I've got this, like I've got leg in there, and it's at this, and then when it gets to this time, I have to do this, and I'm like, cool.
She doesn't care. She just wants to eat it.
No, because I also look at it and go, great, now I have to clean up the kitchen.
Oh, that's not fair. I've gotten a lot better at cleaning up the kitchen.
Yes, you have.
And now I'm going to go on strike. Suck on that.
Go on strike? What? So you're just going to continue the behaviour that you're already doing? Oh, no. What a way to punish me.
It was a good financial year.
And it can get better.
Look,
it should get better.
Yeah, I think...
It has to get better.
I think we'll take a couple of weeks off now. We'll probably come back about mid-August.
To get ready for
spring.
The September...
Yeah, spring selling season, summer selling season, and so we'll have a lot of info. We'll look at what everybody really enjoyed listening to in that time.
We also need to have a look at some new trends that are coming in for house renos.
Yeah, we'll look at all that sort of stuff and come back, but we'll go and build a good schedule and reevaluate the structure and have a look at that. So any feedback anybody's got on this last year and the EPs and what they loved and what they didn't like so much, let us know. And yeah, we'll be back sometime. We don't have an exact date. It'll come down to how long it takes us to plan everything out and do all the structure. But we'll be back sometime about mid-August, end of August, something like that.
We shall return.
Indeed. Have an awesome...
I'll be back.
Have an awesome end to winter, and we'll see you at the end of it.